All right, so let's just review what we just already talked about, continuous integration, and then we can go on. So we did discuss that we had up to this point been doing everything manually. The process that we were following of grabbing the code from source control and compiling and running our tests and packaging and deploying to Heroku. Right now, that's a manual process, and like anything that's manual, is subject to being prone to errors or to human error. So we want to make sure that once we identify a process that we all can agree on, we'd like to be able to capture that and have it be automated, right? So that we always follow the same set of steps that are predictable, right? That are reliable, and that it can reliably reflect the reality of the health of the build. And continuous integration would allow us to do that. And also continuous integration is also a mechanism that would allow us to easily communicate in an organization as to the health of the build. We did distinguish amongst several levels of integration, of continuous integration, depending on how far we were automating. Now, in complex processes in large corporations, you might have multiple environments that where we only automate all the way up to a particular set of environments. But then there are some multiple manual steps that we have to go before making it all the way to production. Since ours is fairly simple, where we have a development environment in front of us, and then we just have a Heroku, which is basically our production machine. We're basically we're trying to implement the last one, just a continuous deployment, right? Where we go from our machine and we're merging it, we're doing some tests, and then it's going directly deployment to production. Ideally, we could do this at any time, right? At any minute, we could immediately deploy the very latest feature, very latest set of requirements that are implemented and tested all the way to production, right? Usually, this in production in large applications, large enterprise shops, this is not the case, right? Usually, this happens periodically every week, maybe, or maybe every other week, or maybe even every month, where we accumulate a number of features and go through all sorts of battery of tests. And once folks at the QA engineers and product owners and business analysts and whatnot, and folks that represent real users, they accept it, and then they go. This goes to production. But ideally, if this is ideally we would be doing this every single time, right? That we are ready to generate a production level quality product, right? At any time, right? Obviously, the reality is not so. Nevertheless, we're going to try to do that, right? We're going to configure our application, our production, our continuous integration or deployment in such a way that this works flawlessly every time. That we make sure that we test everything locally before checking in anything. That we know we are certain that we're not going to break the build. That if we do break the build, it's something very rare, and people are going to jump on you. You don't want to be that person. Right, you have to fear breaking the build. All right, that this should be something extremely rare, right? That everybody should see it as a red flag and jump on you and say what went wrong? How can I help you so that this never happens again? Right? There should be a lot of urgency at the build being broken, so yeah. So it's a good way for achieving communication between the teams, even if they might be working in different features, but working on the same environment. We talked about certain best practices of checking in frequently, things that are small, that we could easily back out if we run into something that we broke. If we do check in something that we don't just go home. We should, if we know that the QA environment runs every half hour, that we should stay, right? We should stay and make sure that the QA environment actually built, right? And we do a smoke test to see that things that the feature I just added, right, didn't break anything, and then I go home, right? But I should be responsible enough that maybe I start early in the afternoon, right? So that I'm certain that by the time I go home, right, I leave the system in a stable state. Yes. So we want to inculcate that sense of ownership of the entire process, not just our development machine. Right? Our development doesn't end at compiling at our machine. Right? We own the entire process all the way to production. So we want to make sure we take that kind of ownership of the product. All right, so Jenkins, this is the tool that we are going to be using, and so let's review that.